Hello and welcome to Talk BGKY, the official podcast of the City of Bowling Green. I'm Neighborhood and Community Services Director Brent Childers, your host today, and I have Elvira Ramick here with me, and we'll be discussing affordable housing in Bowling Green. Hello, Elvira. How are you doing today?
Hello. Good. Well.
All right, good. So why don't you tell everybody what your position here with the city is?
I'm Elvira Ramick. I've been with the city for 21 years, and I'm a housing division manager.
So housing division manager, tell me what that means. What are you managing? What is the program that you're managing?
We're managing Housing Choice Voucher Program, also known as a Section 8 or previously known as a Section 8 program. So we administer HCV, Housing Choice Voucher Program, for HUD. We receive HUD funding to provide housing assistance for low-income families.
So that is one of the ways that the city assists families with affordable housing, right? Is these housing choice vouchers. And these are HUD funded, right?
Yes, 100% HUD funded.
How many of these vouchers do we have in the city of Bowling Green?
We currently have 750 vouchers, meaning we can help up to 750 families that live in the city of Bowling Green.
Whenever you came to the city 21 years ago, how many vouchers did we have then?
We had somewhere around 500 when I came. And then in the last 2-3 years, we were able to increase it to 750.
How were you able to grow from 500 to 600 to 750?
Well, the only way that we can increase it is if HUD makes it available. So there's no way for us to apply for vouchers if vouchers are not actually available. Once when HUD has vouchers available, they will send out the notice, and it's basically done by Congress approval with the HUD budget. So once when it's available, they will send it out throughout all public housing agencies in United States. And then if we qualify, depending on what type of the voucher, then we can apply for it. And then we are, they do the screening, whether we're eligible and whether, and how many vouchers we can get.
Okay, so 750 is our number now. Are you trying to grow that number into the future?
Absolutely. Our community has a great need of housing, for affordable housing, and any chance that we get, we will grow. We will try to grow.
How does somebody get onto the program? Kind of take us through what that looks like, just at a high level.
Well, we have a waiting list because, again, we have a greater need that we can help. And once when you reach the top of the waiting list, then if we have vouchers available, then we will pull you off of the waiting list, and then we will start the process to check whether you're eligible for the program or not. But in order for us to pull anybody off of the waiting list, somebody has to leave the program. Out of these 750 that we're currently helping, they have to leave the program. So they may leave because they are making more money now, so they are no longer needing our assistance. There's different reasons that they could leave the program, but once when they leave, they make these vouchers available so we can pull people off of the waiting list.
How does that, just high level, how does that work? How does that work for the family?
So once when we go through the screening process, and screening process could be like record check and eligibility, income eligibility. So once when they receive that voucher, then they are able to go out and search for their unit. This is the tenant-based program, meaning that the housing assistance stays with the tenant. So tenant or client is able to choose where they want to live.
Okay.
So they go out and look for the place to live, and once when they find it, then there is some paperwork that we need to complete. That's when we start working with the landlord, and if everything goes right with the price, and we also make sure that place is safe and decent for a family, and that's when we can start making payments to landlords.
So this is rental assistance.
Yes,
we're talking about a landlord, and these are. So people are taking these vouchers to the private market and just renting a house, an apartment unit with a private landlord here in the community, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so, but then the housing division is paying a portion of their rent, all of their rent. I mean, is there a calculation in there?
Tenants pay 30% of their adjusted income, at least 30%. It could be a 40%. HUD also allows us to allow a family to pay up to 40% of their income. So anywhere between 30 and 40%.
And so you all are using that same 30% ratio.
Yes, that's a HUD
as
rule.
part of your calculation.
That's a HUD's calculation, yes.
All right.
Now that 30% also includes utilities cost. So it's not
total
just the
housing
rent.
cost.
Yes, correct.
I see. And so does a family have to have, are these income eligible? I mean, the family
Yes.
has to have a certain income, right?
Absolutely. They have to be under, there's income limits for each family size. So they
Okay.
have to be under that income limit.
And those change every year?
Yes.
So
they
what-
normally
What do
are.
they roughly, right now, if you have that available?
So yes, so for family of 4, for example, for 2024, the income limit is $42,700.
Okay, 42,000.
So if they come off of the waiting list, and during the screening for eligibility, if their gross income is over $42,700, they will not be eligible.
Okay.
Now, once when they're in a program, then it's a little bit more flexible,
Mm-hmm.
but also, they could be making more money than where our portion will not be. Basically, their 30% of the income is larger than a housing cost. And
Right.
in that case, they're no longer need the assistance.
So that would be they're able to afford the rent on their own. Their income
Yes.
is increased. There's been a
Correct.
promotion, more hours, whatever the circumstances are. How long could somebody have a voucher? If they received a voucher, how long is that voucher good for? Is this a 3-month assistance, or how long does that voucher last?
So the voucher can last forever pretty much as long as they're eligible. Majority of the people who stay on the program for longer period of time are elderly and disabled.
Okay. So you're talking
people
about
with fixed income.
like
pretty
Social
much.
Security incomes,
Yes.
things like that. They're just very steady income, and
Yes.
they're just trying to make that difference. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So if they get that voucher, where can they use it at? Is it just in Bowling Green, or can they take that somewhere else?
So generally, when they just receive a voucher, they will have to stay here in Bowling Green for at least 12 months. They
Okay.
will need to stay for a year. After a year, they're eligible to request to port to basically take their voucher with them and use it anywhere in the United States where there is another public housing agency.
Because this is a federal program, so it should be used all
Yes,
across
and
the
it's also tenant-based program.
that's
So
right.
it goes with the tenant, with the client.
Okay.
But again, also here, when tenant choose place to live here, after a year, they can decide to go across the town and go to another place and move to another apartment. And as long as landlord is willing to work with us, that unit is safe and sanitary, and we do the inspection and everything passes, the price is good, we can sign another contract with another landlord.
So you're checking the income, you're verifying all that, but you're also checking the unit to make
Yes.
sure that the families are put in safe housing, right?
Yes, correct.
That's one of those services that the city provides as part of the voucher program, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So we do the inspection before we approve any payments.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any issues, then landlord will be repairing those. So once when he passes inspection, then we can start the payment. And then every year or every 2 years, depending of the unit, we will be doing another inspection.
All right, so we talked about it has to be a good quality, they have to be income eligible. So now the family is receiving that payment, or who gets the payment? Whenever y'all write the check,
Mm-hmm.
who does the check go to?
The payment goes directly to landlord.
Okay, okay. So is there a cap on that? I mean, can the family just move anywhere they want? And
No,
go-
yes.
okay.
That's
So-
yeah, it is a cap on it, yes. And
Okay.
recently had recognized the all that increase in a housing cost, so luckily we were able to increase that cap as well. For a 2-bedroom, our payment standard is $1,104.
So that's at this moment
This
in the summer
moment,
of
yes.
2024.
Yes,
That number could change next year. It's a
Absolutely.
different number last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this amount also covers utilities.
Right.
So, which means that the family who's eligible for a 2-bedroom voucher, the rent that they find the unit, the rent and utility expenses cannot go over $1,104.
Okay. Yeah, the last few years, since 2020, we've just seen the housing market,
Mm-hmm. Correct, yeah.
the real estate market just taken to new levels. Really, not just here in Bowling Green, but all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this transition, but it also impacts families. It impacts every family
Absolutely.
that's out there looking for housing. But it severely impacts those that are right on that line of affordability and
Mm-hmm.
creates additional pressure. So I'm glad that you all are running this program. You're running it efficiently. You're running it effectively to make sure that the city of Bowling Green is out here helping the people that call Bowling Green home find a place to live, an affordable, safe, and decent place to live. So you talked about this being tenant-based inside the city. What if somebody's outside of the city limits? Where is their assistance? How did they get assistance?
What Pretty much in all United States, every region has the public housing agency that covers that jurisdiction.
Okay.
So, for example, outside of Bowling Green is Warren County, and Warren County Housing Assistance is covered by KHC, Kentucky Housing Corporation, KHC. Yes.
So if somebody was
They cover.
interested, they just go to their website?
Yes, they go to their website, and it's going to tell them whether they, accept applications or not.
Okay, and that's for people who are looking for tenant-based rental assistance outside of the city limits.
Yes.
Now, if somebody has one of those vouchers outside the city limits with KHC, could they bring that voucher into the city limits?
Yes, absolutely. Just as I said that somebody who has a city voucher here can take their voucher somewhere else is the same concept. So they can choose to live in Bowling Green if they have voucher from somewhere else.
Okay. Do you see a lot of people moving with vouchers in and out of the system?
We do. We always have people that port in and out, but not like in a big number.
Okay. So, Elvira, I got a question for you. So, somebody's getting a voucher, they're coming off the list, they're coming into the program. Do they have to move from where they're at? Or can they stay where they're at?
Oh yes, absolutely. They can stay where they are. They could be living in a unit that they wish to stay, as long as landlord is willing to work with us. And again, inspection passes and the price is affordable. It's not over the payment standard. They can stay where they are.
Okay, so as long as
They
all
don't
those,
have to. Yes,
just like any other side, they can stay where they're at.
absolutely.
So somebody doesn't have a place to stay, maybe a veteran that's out here on the street that doesn't have housing, how would they access back in here?
When you mention veteran, we have special type of vouchers. They're called VASH vouchers,
Okay.
but it's for homeless veterans only. So these, we have 35 vouchers in our community. We're specifically reserved just for those families. So now this homeless veterans they have to be certified by the VA as qualified for these type of vouchers, and then they come from the VA. It's referred by VA, and they don't go on a waiting list. They don't wait for anything. We provide a voucher immediately and immediate housing assistance.
So if a homeless veteran is out there, if
Contact
somebody
VA.
contact
Yes.
the VA, and VA
Absolutely.
funnels everything
Yes.
on their
We
behalf.
still have available vouchers right now.
Okay, and they assist with like making sure they find a unit and
Yes.
all the other the
yeah,
case
they receive
management.
case management, the whole case management.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody that's not a veteran, somebody that didn't serve in the military but is still out there on the street, unhoused, is there another avenue for them?
Yes, we also provide a preferences or priority for homeless families out there. They would have to work with either Salvation Army or Hotel Link or maybe Life Skills, or we're partnering with organizations where they recognize who the homeless family is, and through the referrals, they're placed on the top of the waiting list.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So,
So
but they
we
have
try
to,
to help.
but they have to
with-
go through one of those agencies.
Yes,
So
because we don't provide the case management. We also want to make sure when they do get housed, they actually keep that housing. So those organizations are providing case management and classes and how to keep housing. So that's very important. It's not just about getting the housing; it's about keeping that housing as well.
right, because it takes a lot of work to get that voucher. And so if
Absolutely.
a family can keep that voucher and keep that assistance, that can make such a difference in
Yes,
the
in their
trajectory
lives,
of
yes,
that family. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. So you talked about an inspection. Is that an inspection that you all provide yourself? And if yes, what is that inspector looking for whenever they go in to check some of these units?
Yes, we do have inspector on staff, and we provide those services. So inspector is generally looking, again, every unit to be safe and decent place to live, meaning that, there are windows, there is no broken windows, there is, if landlord provides appliances, those appliances are there and working, heat. There is no like giant holes or holes in the floor or walls. Pretty much, to be in a good
Okay.
good place. Yes.
All right. So since this is so much driven by the landlords, do you feel like you have enough landlords that are participating? Are you looking for more landlords to participate in the program?
Oh, absolutely. We always look for new landlords to join in. We currently work with about 250 up to like 270, 80 landlords,
Wow.
different landlords. And some of these landlords have maybe one house or one apartment to rent, and then some will have like big complexes.
Right.
So, yes, we're absolutely looking always for landlords.
So would somebody just contact you? I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they can contact us, but also tenants that actually have our vouchers, they're the ones searching for the units. So if you advertise it, if you're a landlord willing to work with us, you advertise it, and you can even say, accepting Section 8 or accepting housing assistance, then they will know to reach out to you. I do want to mention that landlords are also their responsibility is to screen those tenants like they would screen any other tenant. So just because family has a voucher, that doesn't mean that they're suitable to be a renter for every tenant. So tenants are still responsible to screen their tenants, including those with the vouchers, and also they're responsible for enforcing their lease. So whatever they do with the regular tenants without Section 8, so there is no like, oh, you have to treat them differently.
Right.
No, every tenant is responsible to obey that lease, and every landlord is responsible to enforce it.
So can a tenant not follow the rules and lose the assistance?
Absolutely, and that's another way how we can get the empty seat for another person from the waiting list, another family.
You're talking about 750 units, helping families every month with rent. This has got to be a pretty big program. I mean, like, how much money are we talking about every year?
Yeah, so the amount currently this year we received, or we would be spending a little over $3 million into our economy here locally.
How long has the city had this program? I mean, like, when did we start this?
I think somewhere in 1980s.
I think you're right.
I think
somewhere in the
80s,
early 80s.
yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yep.
So for close to 40 years, the city has been providing affordable housing assistance to families. And really in the last little bit, has it grown up to 750 families, now over $3 million program that the city is administering and overseeing and making sure that the people who are part of this program have safe, affordable housing here in Bowling Green.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So Elvira, you talked about the program and the work that the city does and overseeing the Housing Choice Voucher Program, but one of the roles that I have is seeing the investment side of affordable housing.
So I understand that city is investing money on a private side, on a private market. So tell me how that process works, and what are you looking for in this program?
Yeah, so the city's been very aggressive in the last few years, making investments in affordable housing. So not only just the Housing Choice Voucher Program and the work that we do there, but also taking some of the funding that we receive also from the federal government, usually HUD, and making those investments back out to create new affordable housing units that may or may not intersect with the Housing Choice Voucher. So I'll give you a story of one. So every year the city gets CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding from HUD, another piece of HUD, another side of HUD. We get that every year, and so as we are going through our process, we're going through looking at neighborhoods. One of the things we've done is look at affordable housing needs in that neighborhood. And so I'll tell you the story of a project that we invested in years ago that we're about to finish up on, and that's Durbin Estates in partnership with Habitat for Humanity just off Glen Lily Road here in Bowling Green. Several years ago they were starting this, they had the land, but they needed some money to really kickstart the infrastructure. And so we took and put about $150,000 into phase one, about $500,000 into phase two, so a total of about $650,000. But that created the opportunity to have about 30 building lots for Habitat to come back and do new affordable housing on. So Habitat has been one of our big partners for a lot of years. That was a really good deal that we did years ago. That's where, after the tornado, a lot of the new affordable housing got built directly after the tornado because we had lots and land available for construction. So we were able to leverage that immediately with some of the funding that came in after the tornado to turn that into new affordable housing. We do a lot with Live the Dream. So just recently, we partnered with Live the Dream to build 9 new affordable duplexes on some on Old Barren River Road, some on Ragland, and some on Brownslock. They had some sites that they already owned, some property that they already owned, and we had some money through a separate CDBG program that we were able to assist with construction. And now we're coming back with some Tornado CDBG. We're coming back with some ARPA money to come in and finish out those developments. So we're trying to find all these different ways to create these new units to define kind of what that affordable housing is, to create these new opportunities to really just create new units of affordable housing.
So let me ask you, those affordable units that you were talking about, how do people can get into those, and who are they for?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So since we're partnering with the nonprofits, all the application, everything is really through the nonprofit. So if you're in like Habitat, it's all home ownership. So if you're interested in home ownership and needing help making that step into home ownership, I recommend people contact Habitat for Humanity of Bowling Green, Warren County, and really intersecting with them and having a conversation with them about what that looks like. Live the Dream is actually a nonprofit arm of the Housing Authority of Bowling Green. And so they do some ownership, some rental. It just depends on the project, like the duplexes that I was talking about. Those are all rental. So people would have to contact Live the Dream to get in there. What they're looking for is obviously income eligibility, good history, because they're still the landlord of that property. It's just our money, or the money that we received from the federal government, is used to offset that construction cost. And so now the rent can be charged less than the market. So we can keep that rent down. So even though there's no voucher to come alongside to pay that difference, that family can still be down here in this 30% range, because we've subsidized the construction of the unit itself to keep that overall price down. That's our goal as public housing investors. And so whenever we look at it, we don't look at it as much on the individual family side. We look at it as looking at trying to hit a range of incomes, a broad range. So with, median income in Warren County, Bowling Green, is $50,000. If we're trying to hit 50% of that, we're trying to hit families that are in that $25,000 range. And then we can make the numbers work to get it down to that range for affordability. But there's some of these, you're looking at 80%. There's sometimes we're looking at 100% to 120%. It really just depends on the project and what we're looking at.
So I understand that the city recently did a housing study for our community, correct? So can you tell me what that study found? What it came out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Last fall we released a new housing needs assessment. This is the second time we've done it. We do it every 5 years. We tie it as part of our consolidated plan, and we released it, I think, October of 2023. And what it said is we need a lot more affordable housing.
Oh, yes.
we actually need a lot more housing in every income range, is what
Absolutely.
it said. It wasn't just affordable, at this lower income where the market's getting squeezed. It was at all income levels. Really what we're seeing is Bowling Green being in a growth period. And it has been in a growth period since 1990. And so this push for more housing has continued on. But what happens as the prices go up, the families that are in that lower tier, lower quartile of income get pushed further and further down. That's why programs like yours, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, or us making these investments become so much more important.
Yes.
So what it tells us is, here's overall what are the housing needs by income range. Those bands of income that I was talking about, that 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 80, 80 to 100% median income. So we can see what are the demands by that, by rental and by ownership. And the other thing we do with that is we look at it from city and county. We have to look at the housing market as not just the city, what's inside the city limits, because literally just across the street is houses too.
Yes.
About half the people in Warren County live outside of the city limits.
Exactly.
So we look at it as city and county. So it gives us a good breakdown of data, trends, what's going on, what's the forecast for the next 5 years, what's the forecast of population, not just the number, what is the breakout of people? What's our aging population looking like? Are we becoming younger? Or do we expect to see an increase in student populations? Because that has a factor on housing as well. So we use that to then make priorities of what income ranges are we really targeting. So your program is really what, 0 to 50%, 0 to 60%? Is that what it's targeting?
Yes, up to 50%.
Up to 50%. So everybody has to be up to 50%.
Exactly.
Some of ours, we can hit that 50 to 80% based on the funding. So that's a different income category for families in that broader range. And so the study allows us to look at what are those things that we should be looking at over the next year. The other thing it does is it informs the market. The market is the builders, the developers, the investment. That's where 85% of housing comes from in this community. And so it informs them about what is the demand for housing over the next 5 years. And then they can look at what products can they offer to meet that demand. So that's really the other big side of the housing study, is making the market aware. What does housing look like? I'll tell you a story. The last time we did it 6 years ago, it came out, said that there was a high demand for high income rental. And we all thought, what are you talking about? Always,
Yes.
we need affordable housing, need affordable housing, need affordable housing. He said, yes, but you also have the population and the income to support higher income rental property. But it has to have the amenities, it has to have the location. And we all thought, oh man, I don't know about this. But he was right. Since then, we've seen some investments in higher income, higher rental prices, and they've been very successful. The market provided that. The city didn't. That was not in our affordable housing target, anything like that. That was all private individuals making that investment. But we saw that market shift and make some of those investments and be really successful. So it's a twofold. It's the market side, but also the public side. And so the other thing we use it for is justification. I mean, we tell stories as grant people, as grant managers, right? That's our job, is to tell stories and craft narratives. And so we use that as backup to telling that story. We probably turned that into another $25 to $30 million of investment here in Bowling Green, Warren County. This study we've been able to turn into a lot of investment.
Hey, I just recently heard about a new announcement about funding coming in to our communities. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. We're excited about this one. We've worked for a long time, us and a lot of other people, on this. But one of the things we use our housing study for is to tell the story of what is the housing demand here in Bowling Green, Warren County. And so several years ago, I got to speak at a conference with our housing consultant, Bowen National Research. Him and I co-presented at a conference. And that introduced me to people from Kentucky Housing Corporation that you talked about, that are overseeing their multifamily and their tax credit investment, because they are the state's housing agency, right?
Yes, correct.
They lead the state in housing investment. And so it was able to strike up a conversation and start using the housing study also on the heels of the tornado that impacted this community December 11, 2021.
Where we lost a
lot of housing.
Houses,
475 units.
Yes.
Remember, we did the study on that, 475 units. And so those two things impacted. So I was able to use those two to tell the story about that. And then through partnership with Kentucky Housing Corporation, the Department for Local Government, and some of the tornado relief money that came down through HUD, they recently announced, I think it was a total of about $130 million investment in affordable housing in Bowling Green, Warren County.
That's
It's
awesome.
going to result in 635 new affordable rental units to be built in Bowling Green, Warren County in the next couple of years. So
that's amazing.
This is not
It's a
just work
big-
that the city did by any means. This is a lot of partners involved in this, but it's about continuing to tell that story of the demand for affordable housing. Now that we'll never see. I don't think in my career I'll never see an investment like that again.
Exactly.
I just don't think it's possible. And I don't want to go through a tornado to get that type of investment again. It's not worth it. But it's just a big example. But also, we're using that study to tell the story of and the tornado to work with other partners. We've just recently announced a partnership with Habitat to buy a farm out on Russell Road that they're going to turn into their next development. So it'll allow them to continue building affordable home ownership opportunities in the community for the next 10 to 15 years. That's a grant that we got through the governor's office, the Department for Local Government, through the disaster recovery funds. And so that's another opportunity where we're partnering. So even though we had the big announcement, we're still doing a lot of the regular things that we've been doing every year. The Warren County Fiscal Court partnered with Live the Dream to do affordable home ownership in the county for another 10 units there. So it's about building these 10, 15, 20 units at a time to really make a dent in this affordable housing. So the city has been active in this for a lot of years.
Like it, yes.
A lot of years, right? The city's been doing the Housing Choice Voucher Program for 40 years. They've been doing affordable housing investment for 40 years, but we've still got a long way to go. This is a problem that is very difficult to solve because there's factors outside of our control. Whenever COVID hit, we didn't know that real estate prices were going to jump through the roof and construction prices were going to hit. We had a tornado in there that impacted everything, and so we're still continuing to kind of stabilize the housing market out here as we move forward. So I talked about these 635 new properties, units that are coming in, all affordable, multiple different sites. I think it's a total of 5 different developments. And what that means for the user is there will be new construction, brand new, high quality housing built in Bowling Green that is affordable for a working family.
So over 600 units that will be brand new built soon?
Soon. These are all close to starting to break ground within probably the next 6 months. That's part of the funding requirements is I have a project that's ready to go. So probably starting construction. So within the next 2 to 2.5 years, we'll see these built out because it's going to take some time for all these to be built. But that means, that single mom out there working with 2 kids can have a new unit that she can afford to live in. Maybe it's the elderly person on the fixed income that you talked about that, they're struggling, making decisions on what do they spend their money on because they got to pay rent. That now that there's an additional 635 units that they have a chance at getting. Because what it comes down to is we just don't have enough. If we need 100 affordable units, we have about 10. We're trying to increase that number per the demand, so per 100. And so we're trying to get that number back up just to try to create more opportunities for that. Maybe it's a mom, dad, 2 kids, just starting out, and they're trying to get everything going and just trying to get that kickstart. And now this is an opportunity for them to have, a new unit in a nice complex to get that kickstart to move in before they're ready to move into home ownership. But once you have those units in the community, then they're protected. On the tax credit, they're 20, 40-year agreements. These are long term. So we have about 600 in the community already. This is pretty much doubling all of the tax credit properties in the community. This is a huge amount of investment into affordable housing. But what it means to that individual down there on the ground is now I have options to go get one of these. Whenever in the housing study, every one of our tax credit properties was full, 100% with a waiting list.
With the waiting list, yes.
No excess capacity. Now we're just increasing that capacity, trying to absorb that demand as part of that. And these are targeted in that 30 to 60% income range. So Elvira, I want to thank you for joining me today to talk about affordable housing. I hope everybody gets that the City of Bowling Green is very active, continues to be active in affordable housing, continuing to look for ways to make these investments, to make it on every month. The rent's due, right? And
exactly,
so making those investments every month. And on my side, we're continuing to look for ways to make those units available to create new affordable units in the community. So I appreciate you coming in today, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Talk BGKY, the official podcast for the City of Bowling Green.